Hello everyone, this is my presentation on Chapter 6, Moral Rights in the Workplace, presented by Sally Pierce. I will be discussing 6.1, the right to work, 6.6, freedom of expression, 6.7, employee health and safety, and finally 6.8, privacy in the workplace. I would like to start out my presentation by discussing a situation that I'm sure that we are all pretty familiar with. Back in 2016, Colin Kaepernick took a knee during the national anthem of an NFL game. He stated that he was protesting police brutality and racial injustices in the United States. What ended up following was a firestorm of epic proportions, causing a controversy that is still felt 5 years later. The protests ultimately cost Kaepernick his job when he became a free agent in 2017, failing to find a team that would employ him as a quarterback. With the recent release of a new Netflix documentary, Kaepernick finds himself caught in another controversial media storm. I do believe that this situation is a perfect topic for discussion for workplace morals and rights. My first slide is regarding the right to work. Ultimately, the meaning of a right to work is employees have a right to a job. This implies that all eligible working people have a right to work for funds to secure goods needed to survive. Items like food, clothing, shelter, etc. Employees also have a right to join a company union or decide not to join a company union. The right to work law protects employers from only, it prevents employers from only hiring non-union interested employees, but also protects unions from what they refer to as a free rider, or a person who joins the union to obtain the benefits but not carry the burden. The right to work also gives employees the right to negotiate a fair wage and benefits. Although this is a tricky part of a right to work, because a lot of people are too nervous or afraid to discuss their work, fearing that they would then in turn not be hired. Going back to my example of Colin Kaepernick, as it pertains to a right to work, since he became a free agent in 2017, he has not been able to secure a position. He has stated time and again that this is a direct result to the protest and the subsequent aftermath. He even ultimately sued the NFL for collusion and conspiring to keep him off the field. But does he have a right to work even though he protested? My next slide is freedom of expression. Freedom of expression refers to the ability of an individual or group of individuals to express their beliefs, thoughts, ideas, and emotions about different issues free from government censorship. The First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution protects the rights of individuals to freedom of religion, speech, press, petition, and assembly. However, nowhere in the Constitution does it state that these expressions are also covered in the workplace. In fact, there is no protection when it comes to an employee's freedom of expression. Employers have the right to run their companies as they see fit. A person can argue then that Kaepernick was representing his team dressed in his uniform and being paid to be at the game and perform his job? Did he have a right to make a personal stand at that time while he was working on the clock? Did he assume his employer had an obligation to protect his rights to protest during working hours? My next slide discusses employee health and safety. People do have a right to work in a safe and healthy environment, but is it a legal right or more of an ethical responsibility of an employer? This is a difficult topic to discuss because no one can clearly define safety in a workplace. Going anywhere, to work, to shop, to the movies, etc., there is always a level of risk. Employees need to gauge the level based on personal preference. They do this through risk and relative risk. Risk is defined as the probability of harm, while relative risk would entail comparing the probabilities of harm involved in various activities. A person or an employee needs to gauge how comfortable they are performing a job. The government supports safety protocols through OSHA, which is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which was established in 1970 to help regulate and maintain the safest feasible practices in a workplace. My final slide discusses privacy in the workplace. While at work, employees do have a legal right to certain privacy. Employers are not able to collect, store, or use personal information without informed consent. Employers infringe on personal decisions that are irrelevant to the position. Most privacy is driven by consent. What has the employee unwittingly agreed to? How much information should an employee be able to obtain about an employee? For years, companies have used tactics like polygraphs, drug testing, surveillance, background checks, and psychological testing to gain knowledge on their employees. My final slide is my discussion questions. Should all states be required to follow the right to work law? What benefit is gained by states not covering the law? Should the right of free expression cover the workplace as it is written in the Constitution? Would some topics be excluded? What are appropriate boundaries an employer should follow when maintaining an employee's privacy? I would like to close my presentation by finishing up on the Kaepernick situation. I believe that there is an issue in the United States with racial injustices and possibly police brutality. What I did not agree with is taking a stand during a time when he is being paid to perform his job, regardless of the spotlight that he found himself in or the platform that he has being an NFL quarterback. I believe that his employer, which was the NFL, did have a right to terminate or not extend a contract that was provided if the contract was not met or maintained by both parties. Thank you very much for listening or watching my presentation.